Public School Board candidates at large. I am Kay Shaw, your moderator for this event. Our co-sponsors are AAUW, the Women's Resource Center of Winona, and the Winona State University American Democracy Project. We are pleased to welcome those of you in our live audience and citizens who may be watching at home. We also want to thank the City of Winona for allowing us to hold this educational forum in the council chambers. For those of you watching at home, we have a call-in phone number where you can provide us with questions for the panel. The call-in phone number is 457-8280. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties, candidates, or tell the voters how to answer the referendum questions. This forum is intended to provide the voters with information so they can make an educated choice on the ballot. The views expressed in this educational forum are those of the candidates. We do encourage our members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community. Our timekeeper for this evening is Mary Borgen. Copies of the forum ground rules have been provided to the candidates, and copies are available this evening for the public. I will review briefly and highlight our ground rules for this forum. The audience is expected to be courteous to the candidates and good listeners. This is a live cable TV broadcast. The audience is asked not to express support or concern during the forum and to hold their applause until the end of the forum. We would like to remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones and pagers. Pictures and videotaping not authorized by the League of Women Voters are prohibited. This forum will be taped, may not be edited, and must be broadcast in its entirety and in accord with all FCC regulations. The candidates may not use the educational forum video in campaign ads or literature. During the forum, we ask the audience present and our TV listeners to write down their questions or call them in at 457-8280. The League of Women Voters and co-sponsors will sort the questions for the moderator. The moderator will ask the questions. The League of Women Voters will determine the questions to be asked, and attempts in good faith will be made to cover all areas of interest expressed by the audiences. The candidates will not know the questions in advance. Questions that are hostile, partisan, embarrassing, inappropriate, or of a personal nature will not be asked. Questions on similar topics may be grouped. Those citizens watching at home are again reminded to call in your questions at 457-8280. All questions will become the property of the League of Women Voters. Candidates will observe strict time limits on responses. Timekeeper will hold up cards to indicate that the time is about to expire. Once the stop card is displayed, the candidate will stop at the end of his current sentence. The opening statement is 2 minutes, questions 1 minute, and the closing statement 1 minute. Before we introduce the candidates, we wish to inform the voters that 3 candidates are running for 2 district at-large seats on the board, and you may vote for 2 of them at the election. The candidates with us today are running for the Winona Area Public School Board at large, Ben Barato, Kenneth Kirsting, and Jay Koner. Candidates have agreed to allow me to use their first names. We would like to begin with opening statements. Our first speaker will be Ben Barato.
I want to thank the League for putting on this forum. There are going to be some important issues facing District 861 in upcoming years. But before I go into issues, I want to cite some significant accomplishments occurring now in our schools. The success of STEM at Jefferson, the addition of another preschool program for the upcoming academic year, the Spanish Immersion Program at Madison School, and WK's two-year recognition as an award school. WK is only one out of 88 schools in Minnesota to receive this honor. Now, test scores continue to improve, but we do have to do a little work on certain areas. As an at-large candidate, I believe we have two interrelated challenges on which to focus our energies, and these aren't the only two. Number one, we must make $2.9 million in budget cuts over the next 4 years. This is a significant amount. And we must evaluate the status of our district's buildings. In making these budget cuts, we must be very careful that we continue to provide quality education for every one of our students. Our buildings are at roughly 60 to 65% capacity, and I keep hearing that we need to right size our district. We have a number of studies done by task forces, but so far the board has not had a serious discussion on these issues. And as far as buildings are concerned, I would want to survey the public before we make any decision on that. If reelected, I will focus my efforts on these challenges and others and make sure that we provide the best possible education to each student.
Thank you, Ben. Ken Kirsting is next.
Well, like I said, thank the league for having this tonight. The reason I'm running for is new ideas are going to be coming up. Like we've got cut 2.9 million. I think there's some changes are going to change, and some's going to happen that we need to make hard decisions on stuff, which is not going to be popular to the public. But I feel that a new candidate on the board with some new ideas could alleviate some of the problems.
Thank you. I've been asked to have all of you get closer to the mic and speak up, please. Thank you. Jay Koner.
Thank you, Kay. First, I'd like to thank the league also for organizing this forum and the other forums that they've organized, and also for all the work that they do for democracy, on behalf of democracy. And that's part of the reason I'm running for my second term as an at-large school board member, and that's because I really do feel that public education is key to having a good democracy. And I believe wholeheartedly in public education. That's why I ran 4 years ago, and that's why I'm running again. However, some things have changed over the last 4 years, and another reason I am running again is I truly, truly love this work. I really like the people that I'm working with on the school board. I like the district staff. I like the people I've met. And of course, the students. I mean, who does not like the kids? And by being on the school board, you do make contact with the students, believe it or not. And we go to a lot of different events, and I really do like this work. I think we've made some progress over the last 4 years, and I know that there is a benefit to having some consistency with school boards, and I was very pleased to find out that my colleagues were all running again. I think if we have a chance to work together for a couple more years, I think we can make some more progress in the district. And I would ask for your vote, and if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I would certainly do my best to continue the progress that we've made.
Thank you, candidates, for your opening statements. We will begin now with the first audience question, and this will begin with Ken. What are the 3 most important leadership qualities that will make you a successful school board member?
I feel consistency, decision-making, and knowing the community, working with the community people, with questions they have, and working the problem situations out. I think leadership is one in making decisions, good informed decisions. That's how I feel about that.
Okay, thank you. Jay? And if, by the way, if you want the question repeated, I'll be glad to do that, and it won't count against your time.
Okay, 3 leadership qualities.
Most important leadership qualities that will make you a successful school board member.
I would have to say an ability to listen is very, very important. I would also have to say ability to step back and reevaluate and perhaps admit that you were either wrong or at least be willing to change your mind on some things. And then I think a sense of empathy also is a really good leadership skill.
Good, thank you. Ben?
Well, leadership qualities, I think that I've, over the past 4 years, shown that I listen to all of my constituents. I get quite a few phone calls, and I would continue to do that. I like to make decisions based on research. I like to listen to all sides before making a decision, and I think I can make the tough decisions. I have been on a lot of boards over the past number of years, and I think that's given me some, whatever it takes to be a good board member. So I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. For our second question, we'll start with Jay. What are the 3 most important issues facing District 861 during the next 2 years?
The 3 most important issues, I would have to say, I think we have to work real hard to address learning in the classroom. I think we've made progress there, but I think we have to continue to take it to the next level in learning for all students, the high achieving students and also the low achieving students. Well, in the middle too, I guess, right? So learning in the classroom, I think we're going to have to look at, continually look at finances. I mean, that's a big part of the work we do, and we get really creative in that area and try to figure out, you know, to make our expenditures and revenues meet. And I would say the third area of that we're going to have to, I think it's important to reach out to the community, to be there for our students, our parents, our families, and work well together. I think that's always a challenge. It's
Right.
okay. Stop.
Thank
sign.
you.
Yeah.
Ben?
Okay, the 3 most important issues, well, I think number 1 is the budget. When you look at 2.9 million over a 4-year period, that breaks down to something around 700 to 800,000 a year, and that number is very, very significant. And I think that we have to watch very, very closely what we do cut so that it doesn't impact the educational process. I already mentioned test scores in my opening statement. I think they're improving in a lot of areas, but as you look at them, I think we can do a little bit better. And we must close the achievement gap between the various groups.
Thank you. Ken?
I feel that the 3 I feel is buildings. Our buildings aren't getting any younger. They're aging at time, and they're going to need a facelift to stuff. And another one is building safety for the students and faculty and staff. With all the school shootings going on, make sure our buildings are 100% safe and people are trained for situations, and that all students receive the highest education available through the teachers, which do a great job.
Okay, thank you. For the third question, we'll start with Ben. What do you think is the primary tool the district can use to improve academic achievement?
Well, we hear the word technology all the time. I don't know if that's the answer, but I know that we're going more and more in that direction, and Dr. West has said that before 3 years are up, he's going to have some kind of a device in every student's hand, and we'll see where that goes. But, you know, I think after spending 31 years in the classroom, I think what is key is to hire quality teachers, which I think we do have, and that's where the action really takes place, in the classroom. You give me a good teacher and a bunch of willing students, and something's going to take place.
Good, thank you. Ken?
Can you repeat the question?
Surely. What do you think is the primary tool the district can use to improve academic achievement?
Oh, I agree with Ben said, you know, quality teachers, but, you know, we have quality teachers, but make sure that they have all the needed material they need for their teaching. I mean, if it's books or computers or anything, you know, that's what you need, is the quality equipment to learn to teach.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
It's a rather complex question, but I would have to say the primary tool would be making sure that our youngest learners, our pre-K students, are well prepared when they're coming into kindergarten, and as they progress through the elementary, that they are well prepared. They're able to read at grade level. They're able to do math and science at grade level. It's very, very difficult to once you're behind, to catch up. And so I think we really need to continue the focus, as we've been trying to do, at those youngest learners, and again, address the ones that the students that are struggling with early intervention. And I know it takes a while to do this. It's not a quick, easy fix, but some things take time. So, thank you.
Thank you. I've got, the mother in me says, please speak up. Everybody needs to hear you a little better. Thank you. All right, for the next question, we'll start with you, Ken. In light of the necessary budget cuts, which program or programs do you think are essential to maintain or enhance for our students and families?
Say it again.
It is kind of a long question. In light of the necessary budget cuts, which programs do you think are essential to maintain or enhance for our students and families?
Oh, okay. I say it would be reading and math and basic skills in life. I mean, if you can't read and write, you're not going to go very far. That's and more family involvement with after-school programs that can help the lower achievers make the grade.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
I believe that we'd have to look at programs that we get the most bang for the buck with, and that work well but are not costing a lot of our revenue. For example, the STEM program, that's been a program that has brought revenue into the district. It has grown our elementary population, and the expenditures for a program like that are not great. I can say the same thing about the Spanish immersion program. That is a program that brings students into the district, and there's not a great expense to the district. Also, programs like Miller Mentoring and programs that we really are successful and not with a big price tag.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, when I hear the word essential, I think of reading, number one. If a person can't read, they're really behind the eight ball in every other subject. And I think it's essential to get these people at grade level, by third grade, being able to read, and also math and science in today's society are also an essential. But having said that, I think the well-rounded student needs some of the other courses like art, music, foreign language.
Okay, thank you. And next question, we'll start with Jay. How is it fair that only some schools receive special programming like STEM or Spanish immersion? How does this serve all students equitably?
Well, let's start with the Spanish immersion program. That's a program that, like I said earlier, was not a large expenditure for the district. So when we decided to implement that program, we first had to look at it and say, what can we afford? And that was a program that we could afford. But what's happening with that program that some people might not be aware of is that we're also starting Spanish earlier in the middle school. So last year, you could take Spanish starting in the 8th grade at middle school. This year, it's at 7th grade, and that'll come down to where we'll have Spanish starting in the 5th grade at the middle school, and any student in the district at the 5th grade level would be able to take that Spanish. So in my mind, that was a justification for it, because then students could start Spanish in 5th grade, which if you're going to learn a foreign language, those 3 years earlier is going to will help considerably.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, I think there is some controversy in this area. I think some schools do feel left out. And, you know, what I tell all the schools is, you might be doing it in a little different way, but we have state standards, and whether it's the STEM school or a school that doesn't have STEM, they're all really teaching the same things. They're teaching to the state standards. Now, look at the iPads at Rolling Stone. Some of the board members were against that. I felt that there is something in the literature that speaks to iPads in the classroom, but I said, why not try it at Rolling Stone, get some data from our own school, and then if it really works, we can expand it into other schools.
Thank you. Ken?
I believe it should be offered to everybody. There should be no separation of this school to that school to this school. If there's funds for around, I think it should be offered. It shouldn't be segregated like that where certain schools have it and certain programs. It's not fair, you know. And if there has to be cuts made somewhere to add these programs, if it works, it doesn't work. I think that it shouldn't be just separate. It should be offered to all, even if it's an after-school program.
Okay, thank you. For the next question, we'll start with Ben. Should the school district support a preschool at each elementary site, and how would this be paid for?
Well, we don't have preschool at every elementary site, and probably that's unfortunate. When we started the preschool at WK this year, we looked at 3 or 4 different options. A couple of options were from our own district, a couple of options were in conjunction with WSU. We went with the WSU option because we just couldn't afford it. We wouldn't have preschool at WK had we not gone along with that option with WSU.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
I think it's a great idea to have preschool. I mean, it's a way for a child to come in and learn life skills, make friends. I think it's great. If it's funding available, it'd be worth a try. You know, if we got to cut some other areas that need to be cut that we're wasting money on, put it towards that. I think that would be a great idea. I think that would help out families and learning life skills right away.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
To answer your first question, I'd say yes, we need preschools at every school. And I believe with the startup of our preschool at WK, that we do now have a preschool available, different forms, different schedules, but preschools available in all of our elementaries now. And like I said earlier, if we're going to raise the level of learning, we need to start with our youngest learners. And I wholeheartedly support it. And unfortunately, much of the preschool is paid for by fee-for-service. But I think we're also making improvements in that area. It looks like funding might be available through the state, and there's grants and different ways to fund it. But preschool in every school, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we'll start with Ken. As school buildings age and the list of deferred maintenance grows, what are your thoughts on the possibility of building a new large-capacity elementary school?
It's a tough question. I don't believe that it would be feasible to do that. I think with proper maintenance and restructuring, I think a person could get by. Because in the long run, there's going to be some bigger budget stuff coming up. Then within 10 years, they got to replace the artificial turf field, more ADA compliance buildings and stuff going on. It has to be required, boilers going out. It's not feasible to build a new elementary school right now. I mean, we got the buildings, and if they're properly maintained by the staff, I think they last a long time, but it's not feasible.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
I have many concerns with that possibility. When I consider facilities, the first thing I look at are programs. Before I look at buildings, I want to know, how are we going to, or where are we going to house our special ed program? Where are we going to house our STEM program? Where are we going to house preschool programming? Where are we going to house the Spanish immersion programming? How does that look in the facilities? I'm also concerned that we spend a lot of time on what can be a very divisive issue, and then we have a referendum that doesn't pass. I'm very concerned that the referendum to bond for a new school would be tough to pass, and that's my biggest concern with building a new elementary school. Thank you.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, the buildings are old, but they are fairly well maintained. Every year we do some maintenance, but every year we fall a little bit further behind. We have a huge deferred maintenance bill, and there just isn't enough money every year to do all that needs to be done. For example, it was quoted to me that one parking lot can cost $400,000 just to coat the parking lot. So should we build a new school, or should we stay with our buildings that we have? I think Jay is right. Programs are much more important than buildings. And if we do anything with these buildings, as I stated in my opening statement, I would like to have some kind of a poll of the people that are going to foot the bill, the voters of Winona, before we do anything.
Thank you. Before I ask the next question, I just want to remind our viewing audience that we welcome phone-in questions. The number is 457-8280. Now, we'll start with Jay on the next question. How can the school board help address the substance abuse issues that are present in the high school?
My opinion, I see substance abuse as a health issue, and we need to address that as a health issue, and that would be bringing in social workers, using our social workers and our nursing staff to help with addictions and find out just what needs to be done in that area.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Well, I think we do have some social workers that man various programs that address this issue, and I think as a school board, we have to make sure that people that are working in this area have the tools and whatever they need to do their job. I think really it's an educational issue. I think we have to start addressing it very, very early before they ever get to high school and bring out some of the dangers of using some of these substances.
Thank you. Ken?
Well, I'd like to see the faculty and staff trained and to look for what to see in it, what the warning signs are, and if we teach the faculty and staff how to treat, and not to treat, I'm saying to look for the warning signs, to notice that somebody's in trouble, that and then go report to the right people that can treat this stuff. It all starts by the first warning signs, and that's how I feel about that.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll start with Ben. What are the pros and cons for a district data manager, and would you support such a position?
Well, anybody watching the last few school board meetings know my position on this. I spoke against it. If they can convince me that this really will help in the classroom, I'll really take a close look at it. The budget. This position will cost probably over $100,000, and that's just not for 1 year. That's for, let's say we have to cut over the next 4 years. That's $400,000. That's halfway to the budget cuts that we have to make to get to that 2.9 million. So, yeah, I'll take a very, very good look at it, and if they can convince me that it's necessary and they show me the research, I'll vote for it.
Thank you. Ken?
I agree with Ben. I don't believe it's needed, but like I said, if you can produce the funds, and if we can do some job shifting or reclassification of administrators, let's try it, but look for the way that's going to be least cost effective, if it's going to cost money, we got to cut, there's no just putting a position in place, and down the road, we've got to cut it, and we've gotten by without it before. It's not needed.
Thank you. Jay?
I would add that a pro to hiring this position would be that we would have somebody on staff that is highly trained in the area of understanding data, and we through testing get lots and lots of data. I think that would be the pro, just having somebody that has the expertise to do that. The con, I think for most board members, and right now we're looking at is the expense. I think that's probably the biggest issue, at least that I'm hearing. So we weigh these things out, and we try to make the best decision with limited resources, and then move on from there.
Thank you. This next question, start with Ken. It's a little bit long, so if I have to repeat it, that's fine. The most important need in acquiring a good education is an environment conducive to learning without the stress of being bullied on school property. What can the school board do to assist in dealing with this ongoing problem?
I think bullying is a very important issue, and like I said earlier on the substance abuse, I think a lot of that comes down to training the faculty training the staff to see this, put a stop to it. Then when a bully is confronted, it's some serious consequences that you're going to get out of this. It's not just, a slap on the wrist. It's some serious consequences. Zero tolerance is zero tolerance. It's not in the society today. It's not acceptable. And that's why I said if the teachers see this stuff, they're trained in how to deal with it. That's how I feel about that.
Thank you. Jay?
Well, like many complex social issues, bullying is one of those that you just cannot take care of in 6 months or a year. It's learned behavior, and I think if we're really serious about tackling this problem of bullying, we have to, again, work with our youngest learners. We need to teach our boys to be kind and gentle. I mean, that's a big part of it, and in our society, our young kids are not always taught to be kind and gentle, and I think that's where we need to start. Not to say that we should just, let anything go at the middle school or high school level, but again, like so many things we're trying to achieve, it's part of learning, and I think kids can be unlearned, if you'd say, to not be bullies, and we have to also look at it, address it from that perspective also. So.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, bullying has changed drastically from the time I was in school. With all of the media or all of these devices that the kids have nowadays, it's very easy to bully, not only in school, but when the kids go home. And I just encountered an instance of this today. We have a new bullying policy. The state has gotten tough, I think, on bullying. There's more awareness, and I believe it has to be reported and something done within 3 days, which probably wasn't done in the past. I think it's very important that it's reported. If we don't know about it, we can't act, we can't do anything about it.
Thank you. This next question, we start with Jay. The board has brought up the growing concern of grade 12 plus students at the Area Learning Center, but hasn't done much to combat the problem. What will you do to ensure that the board will ensure that all Winona area public school students will graduate and succeed?
First, I'd like to just step back to the last question. I did say we need to teach our young boys to be kinder and gentler, but that's young boys and girls. I just want to, because bullying is not just boys, so I just want to make a clarification on that. As far as at the ALC, I think it's time to look at that whole program at the ALC. That's been, I think, for probably 20 years now, the Alternative Learning Center has been in operation, and I think we need to evaluate it, see if it's achieving what we want it to achieve, to see if there's new trends out there, new ways to work with the students. I think we have to look at the entire program out there and evaluate it and see how we can improve it and keep those kids in school till they graduate. And yeah, I'll end it there.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Well, I think that they're doing a lot of different things out there to ensure that they all do graduate. But you have to remember that some of those students, they're not traditional students. They're not in school all day long like some of our high school students. In order for them to be able to take the courses to graduate, I think that we have to be even more flexible than we are. Perhaps we have to have more classes at night, or when it's convenient for these students that might be working and just going there part-time. Now, we do have something called the world's best workforce, and one of the goals is to have all students graduate, so we are paying attention to that.
Okay. Thank you. Ken?
Like I said, I can't answer this question because I don't have a lot of the data so I feel that there's ways that we can work to achieve that they all graduate.
Okay, thank you. And for the next question, we'll start with Ben. Should the district ask voters for a referendum on deferred maintenance to keep all of the elementary schools open?
I don't know that I would go for that type of referendum. I think we're talking about a very, very big figure here. And again, if the voters wanted to go this way, I think we should really poll the voters on what they want to do with these buildings. And if they want to vote for an increase in taxes to fix the buildings, if that's their wish, then I guess I would vote that way.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
That's like I said, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't think enrollment's going to skyrocket here. And if enrollment drops like they're projecting, we're going to have spare buildings. So we should put the money towards the buildings that are needed and that are going to hold, if we have to close a school, that we can move programs into. But like I said, it would be a tough sled to getting a referendum passed. Like Ben said, if you want to poll the public and see what they say with, county taxes, city taxes, it's going to be a tough sled hill.
Thank you. Jay?
Well, I strongly support a bonding referendum to maintain our buildings, and what form that would look like, whether it would be all buildings or some buildings. I think we have to, it's our responsibility as board members to put this question before the public, the general public, and we need to raise some funds. We have, I believe it's over $1 million just at our high school building in deferred maintenance. And, being a home builder and remodeler, that's what my life is about, is maintenance. And I see what happens when buildings are not maintained. And this is a good time to put a referendum before the public. And when I say this is a good time, it could be in 2 or 3 years or 4 years. But this is a good time because we are paying off some bonds. The bond at the middle school is being paid off. The bond for Rolling Stone is being paid off. And I would definitely support working towards putting a bond before the public to vote on.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Ken. What strategy does the board have to get the Minnesota legislature to increase capital expenditure funding?
That's a good question. Well, it's election year. We get a new governor in there, we get new senators, new congressmen. We start knocking on doors and writing letters saying, here's the problem. We need to get this fixed. It's been put off for the last how many years? It's got to get changed. You need to find the funds.
Thank you. Jay?
I'd have to say that is an area that I have not personally been involved with as far as a strategy. I personally contact and talk with my state legislators. But as far as a board strategy goes, I know there are other board members that are more active in that area that do go to forums where legislation is discussed. I know our superintendent's very active in that area, and I think it's very important work, and it's something that we need to continue doing.
Thank you. Ben?
I want to take just a second to go back to that referendum question. The thing that we really have to decide, I spoke to the capacity of our buildings they're at 60 to 65% capacity. When we talk about a referendum, do we want to pass a referendum that addresses all the needs of all the buildings? As Ken said, our enrollment is decreasing. Way back, we had 6,400 kids. We're a little over 3,000. Strategies. I've talked to the legislators. They said that it will be a tough sell. I think the only thing we can do is go to the old adage that says the squeaking wheel gets the grease. Keep after legislators, make our needs known, and I think that's probably all we can do.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we start with Jay. What plans do you think should be made for the Rolling Stone Elementary School building once the bond is paid off?
Well, I think we continue operating that school, and we do what we can to enhance the academic experience there for our students. And I think we try to work at keeping that enrollment at that school to a level where we can keep it open. And I think at this time, that's what I would support. Once the bond's paid off, I would not make any drastic change there at this time.
Okay, thank you. Ben?
Well, there has been no discussion at the board level on what to do with that building once the bond is paid off. I would hope that over the next number of years we can increase enrollment there. There's a lot of kids in Rolling Stone that don't attend that Rolling Stone school. And if we can do maybe a better job of attending that local school, maybe we can get the enrollment up and we can keep it open.
Thank you. Ken?
Yeah, I agree with Ben there. I mean, if it's paid off and somebody says, oh, we should close it, I don't see a lot of investors knocking at the door saying, hey, I want to buy that school. I think if we should utilize it. It's a new build, a newer building, and if it takes board members to write letters, get grants, get evening programs, get night programs in there, use it. And why not use it for this capacity?
Thank you. Now, the last question before the closing comments. We start with Ben. If STEM is so successful, why would it not be implemented at all schools and throughout all the K-12 years?
If what was?
If the STEM program is so successful.
Okay. Well, it's not being used in all schools, but there is more being used at the middle school now than when we first started the STEM program at Jefferson. I don't know when it will be implemented at all schools, if ever, but I know that it's kind of creeping up in the middle school. And I think there's some vestiges of it at the high school also, although not to the extent that we have it in that elementary building.
Okay, thank you. Ken?
Can you repeat that question one time?
Surely. If the STEM program is so successful, why would it not be implemented at all schools and throughout all the K-12 years? Grades, probably we should say, K-12 grades.
I don't know why it isn't. I don't know why, if it's ever been looked at, or if it's a cost thing, or why it hasn't. I don't know. I don't have the facts and figures in that, why it's not. Why it's segregated different buildings. I can't answer that question because I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Jay?
The district has one elementary building designated to science, technology, engineering, and math, which we call inquiry-based learning. But it's not only happening in that building. That building is designated STEM, but we have implemented inquiry-based learning in our other elementary schools. And one of the reasons I think that we're not expanding it by name is that, I mean, you look at our other elementary schools, they all are very unique and have their own programming to offer. If you look at WK on the east side, you know, that's a 2-year award school in a row, 2 years in a row. It's become an award school. I mean, what's happening at that school is fantastic. So so why don't we do what we're doing at WK at every school? Well, we're trying. We're trying to do really good things at all of our elementary schools. Madison, we implemented a language immersion program. You know, Rolling Stone is a community school that perhaps addresses some rural issues, and Goodview is also a very, very successful community school. So, all I can say is good things are happening in all of our elementaries.
Thank you. Ben?
Well, there's nothing magical about that STEM. As somebody pointed out, it's just a way of teaching. And I don't think too many teachers stand up in front of the class now and lecture. So the inquiry method is being used, I think, throughout the district by many, many teachers. It's just not being called STEM.
Okay, thank you. We do have one more question. And we'll start with Jay.
Sure.
Some districts are doing pilot year-round school. What is your position on this?
Well, I would be in favor of a modified calendar that would extend the school year into the summer months and try to reduce that 12-week break. It's been one of the board's initiatives for the last 3 years. I think it's definitely worth pursuing. We do have some roadblocks. It gets very, very hot here in the summertime, and a couple of our buildings do not have adequate air conditioning, so those are some concerns, but I for the most part, think it's a direction that we should pursue.
Okay, Ben?
Well, at a retreat some years ago, I think when I first got on the board, I may be the one that surfaced this year-round school, or the way it's called now, modified calendar. And now when a student gets in trouble, a lot of times we have to wait till the end of the year to remediate. When you have the 45-15 school year program, you go 45 days, student is a little bit behind, you have 15 days to catch him up or her up. As Jay said, the biggest roadblock, I think, are 3 elementary buildings that do not have air conditioning. We looked into the possibility of installing air conditioning. It's prohibitive. We don't have the money. If it were only 2 schools, we might be able to swing it, but with 3, I don't think it's in the cards.
Thank you. Ken?
I believe that you need, when I grew up, we had summer school, at least after school. But I think you need the faculty, staff, students need the summer off. They have jobs. You just need that family time to get unwound from a school year. And like I said, if you're going to have the air conditioning, you're going to have to hire faculty, custodial. Your maintenance is going to go up because you're running if you're on a longer school year. It costs money. And if we're talking 2-point-some million cuts, that would be the first thing cut.
Okay, thank you. We are nearing the end of our forum, and we would like each candidate to present a closing remark. And we're going to begin with Jay.
Okay, well, again, I would like to thank the League for hosting this evening. And as I said in my opening statement, I really, really like this work. I would like the opportunity to be school board member for the next 4 years, and would ask voters to consider voting for me. And I think we've made progress in the last 4 years, and if reelected, I will continue to work on behalf of our students and our children and our families, and I guess that's really why I'm running again. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ken?
Like I said, I thank the Legal and Wars for this program. I think it's great for the opportunity to ask questions, meet the candidates. The reason I'm running for school board is it's time for some changes. You know, new perspective, new ideas. It's your opportunity for the public to, if they want to feel a change needs to be made, you have the right to vote. Get out and vote. That's what it's made for. That's what they call it voting for.
All right, thank you. Ben?
I again thank the League for this forum. I decided to run for re-election for a number of reasons. Winona has always been a fine school district, and I am interested in seeing that it continues to be a district where our students can receive a great education, but in a safe learning environment. Because of my years as an educator, I believe I have a pretty good idea of what does and what does not work in education. There is also data that shows that boards that stay together for a number of years get more effective with experience. I will work to see that we institute policies that work to improve test scores, and we should strive to close the educational gap that exists between the various groups. So I would appreciate your vote in November.
Thank you. We are at the end of our time for this forum. We want to thank all of the candidates for an informative event. The League of Women Voters would also like to thank our co-sponsors, AAW, the Women's Resource Center of Winona, and Winona State University American Democracy Project. We would also like to thank HBC for taping this educational forum. Selected candidate forums will be rebroadcast on the government access channels, Charter Cable Channel 987 and HBC Cable Channel 19. Check your local media for dates and times of foreign rebroadcasts. We would like to share the dates and times of the upcoming League of Women Voter candidate forums. October 7th, Winona City Council, Ward 2 and Ward 4. October 21st, Minnesota Legislature, House Districts 28A and 21B. October 22nd, meet and greet local unopposed candidates. Winona County Attorney, Winona County Recorder, Soil and Water Board, District 1, Winona Area Public School Board, Districts 1 and 2, and Winona City Council at large. This event will feature televised candidate statements and time for the public present to directly meet the candidates after the televised portion of the evening. All League of Women Voter general election forums will be held here in the Winona City Hall Council chambers throughout October. They will all begin at 7 p.m. Watch for local media and publicity for updates on all of these opportunities. Through the courtesy of the Winona City Clerk, we rebroadcast the 2014 League of Women Voter Forums on the government access channels, HBC 19 and Charter 987. The rebroadcasts of this forum for the Winona Area Public School Board at-large candidates will be Thursday, October 2nd at 9 a.m. and Friday, October 3rd at 7 p.m. If you need information on becoming a registered voter, call the Winona County Auditor or the Winona City Clerk. You may also register to vote online at the Minnesota Secretary of State's office until October 14th. Minnesota also has registration at the polls. Check the Minnesota Secretary of State's website on the process, as several items of identification must be provided on election day to election judges. The League of Women Voters website, mnlwv.org, is a website you may also use for general voter service information. Please vote. The general election is on November 4th. The polls are open at 7 a.m. through 8 p.m. Thank you and have a great evening.